Friends, let's take on a bit of a good news, bad news story. A story about Donald Trump and today's sentencing of his criminal enterprise, the Trump Organization. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, today the Trump Organization was sentenced after being convicted on 17 counts in a New York state court for essentially running a 15-year-long tax fraud scheme. And do you know what the sentence was for the Trump Organization? I hope you're sitting down. The Trump Organization was fined $1.6 million. Now, I know the Trump Organization is crashing and burning financially. Still, I'll bet that they could find 1.6 mil in the really gaudy couch cushions at Trump Tower. Let's look at today's reporting about the sentencing in the Trump Organization case. This from NBC News. Headline: Trump Organization fined $1.6 million for long-running tax fraud scheme. And that article begins, the Trump Organization was hit with $1.6 million in fines Friday when a New York judge sentenced it for running a 15-year tax fraud scheme that prosecutors said top executives at the company orchestrated out of pure greed. Trump Corp and Trump Payroll Corp, both subsidiaries of the Trump Organization, were convicted last month on 17 counts, including conspiracy, criminal tax fraud, and falsifying business records. Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass had urged acting Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan to fine each company the maximum allowed under the law. Quote, the sheer magnitude of the fraud calls for the maximum possible fine for falsifying business records and helping senior managers evade taxes as they defrauded the tax authorities. The crimes were deep, wide, and long, lasting for decades, Steinglass said. The conduct can only be described as egregious. The judge agreed, fining Trump Corp $810,000 and Trump Payroll $800,000 for a grand total of a little over $1.6 million. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg hailed the sentence in a statement. Quote, while corporations can't serve time, this consequential conviction and sentencing serves as a reminder to corporations and executives that you cannot defraud tax authorities and get away with it, Bragg said. Well, actually, you can get away with it if your name is Donald Trump. Let's put DA Alvin Bragg's statement to the test. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that Alvin Bragg's top prosecutors at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, who had been investigating the crimes of Donald Trump, came to Bragg and said, hey, boss, we've got the goods. We have more than enough evidence to indict Donald Trump. We have more than enough evidence to convict Donald Trump, and we are recommending prosecution. And Alvin Bragg killed the investigation. So you'll excuse me if I'm not wildly persuaded by Alvin's assertion that you cannot defraud tax authorities and get away with it? Because, Alvin, that's precisely what you let Donald Trump do. Why? Well, the article continues, because the lone person charged in the scheme was the company's former chief financial officer, Allen Weisselberg. Moving on, here's a statement from a spokesperson for the Trump Organization that is priceless. In a statement after sentencing, a spokesperson for the Trump Organization said, Weisselberg is a victim. He was threatened, intimidated, and terrorized into cooperating with prosecutors. President Trump and the Trump Organization are also both victims, the statement continued, because these politically motivated prosecutors will stop at nothing to get President Trump. Well, they stopped at prosecuting Donald Trump. So again, I'm going to take exception with the Trump Org's spokesperson that the New York prosecutors will stop at nothing to get at Donald Trump. They stopped. They didn't get Donald Trump for the crimes that Alan Weisselberg committed, other top executives committed, the Trump Organization committed over the course of 15 years. But Donald Trump was pure as the driven snow. No crimes there. Okay, friends, let's continue our ride on the good news, bad news roller coaster with some good news. New York Attorney General Letitia James is still crushing it. Recall, she brought a lawsuit, a $250 million lawsuit, and that's just for openers. I predict the judgment in that case can and will go higher. But Tish James brought a $250 million lawsuit against the Trump Organization and Donald Trump personally, and Don Jr. personally, and Eric Trump personally, and Ivanka personally. And if today's sentence put the Trump Org on life support, well, Tish James is getting ready to pull the plug. Let's look at some recent reporting about the lawsuit that Attorney General James brought. This from the New York Times. Judge scolds Trump legal team and lets James's lawsuit proceed. A New York judge declined to dismiss the state attorney general's suit against the former president and called his lawyer's filing frivolous. In a sharply worded order, the judge, Justice Arthur Engoron of State Supreme Court in Manhattan, denied Mr. Trump's motion to dismiss the case, granting the Attorney General, Letitia James, another victory in the matter. In September, Ms. James filed a lawsuit accusing Mr. Trump, 3 of his adult children, and their family business of overvaluing his assets by billions of dollars. So friends, even if Alvin Bragg doesn't quite have what it takes, it seems that Tish James does. A couple of things. First of all, Alvin Bragg continues to say, we're not done with Donald Trump yet. Our investigation continues. Well, okay, wake me up, Alvin, when you've dropped an indictment on Donald Trump's head. And Tish James, as tough and aggressive and determined as she is, her case is only about money, right? Nobody's going to prison in connection with the Tish James civil suit. Now, the other thing Attorney General James is seeking, besides $250 million for openers, is a bar preventing Trump and his spawn from doing business in New York in the future. That's a good thing. And of course, all eyes continue to be on Georgia, where District Attorney Fani Willis really does seem to have what it takes. And I mean that both on the evidentiary front, she seems to have what it takes to bring charges, and on the determination front, because she has been sawing the justice wood in front of her, and it sure feels like she is preparing to indict Trump and company. And then, of course, we will not rule out Jack Smith, the newly appointed special counsel, who has been tasked with investigating the federal crimes of Donald Trump. The good news is, in recent weeks, Jack Smith has issued a ton of subpoenas, investigating every nook and cranny of Donald Trump and his criminal associates, and it feels like things might begin to happen on that front. But somebody, somewhere, has to start holding Donald Trump accountable for his crimes against the United States and her people. Because justice matters. Friends, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.